If you grew up with a PlayStation console, chances are you'll have at least one game developed by Naughty Dog in your collection. For me, at least one of their games is in my top 10 favorites for every PlayStation console, including Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped and Crash Team Racing on the PS1. The Jak and Daxter series, it actually took me a while to get into, 2017. But after reviewing the whole trilogy, Jak 3 is now one of my top 10 favorite PS2 games. In fact, I've almost reviewed every Naughty Dog game. I think at the time of this video, Uncharted Lost Legacy and The Last of Us Part 2 are all that's left if you don't count remakes and remasters, which Naughty Dog love to develop. Point is, to say they've made a name for themselves as one of the premier developers for Sony would be an understatement. And after completing Jak X Combat Racing, with the PlayStation 3 an all-new system that amped the graphics, they had the option to play it safe with Jak and Daxter. And they were originally planning on making a follow-up for the PS3, but after Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin left Naughty Dog, development only went as far as artwork, and while the worlds they sketched up looked incredible, the characters looked more photorealistic, and that's just wrong. Like it was destined to appear in a future list for games that ruin franchises. But at least they actually tried, and Naughty Dog have never explicitly said they're done with the franchise yet.
Think about not doing something like that again!
Anyway, instead they were motivated to do something fresh and innovative with a new IP with real-looking characters and worlds. Codenamed Big and setting itself in a jungle, this new game was destined to receive a lot of Far Cry or Tomb Raider comparisons. It was even nicknamed Do Raider for a brief stretch. They wanted this new character to be more an everyman, just barely able to survive, and you can see in his expressions and dialogue when trying to traverse past the platforms and dodging enemy gunfire instead of something out of a Contra reboot. Early development shows that melee combat was going to be prominent, including counterattacks and improvised weapons. Hand-to-hand was meant to be one of the three main components, along with traversing terrain and shooting, according to Evan Wells. And while you can throw an enemy onto a wall or ledge, you can only button mash the square button and also perform a well-timed combo for extra ammo on the weapon they drop, but not as diverse as originally planned, at least not yet. And oh my god, that looks like Bart Simpson in human form. Either that or another random character model in a Jak and Daxter game. It's actually supposed to resemble closely to Johnny Knoxville according to Josh Shear, but this looks very cartoony. And even by the time it was officially unveiled at E3 in 2006, he looked closer to what we're familiar with today. Animation was another very important aspect for this new game, with a variety of moves, weapons, and that familiar tense music. A lot of what's familiar with this franchise is demonstrated in this trailer, even that shirt which he ends up wearing in Uncharted 3, fun fact. There was still no name for this game, but there was plenty of excitement, until Uncharted Drake's Fortune was leaked on February 2007 thanks to an online resume. Another unveiling was announced at E3 2007, showcasing the platform aspect hasn't been forgotten by Naughty Dog before being released for the PlayStation 3 on November 2007. Now, I had heard of the series and how acclaimed it was. It was actually the sequel that got my attention, and that's because I didn't get a PS3 until 2009. And I think a year later, that's when I got Drake's Fortune as a birthday present. But it was until the announcement of Uncharted 4 for the PS4 in 2014 that I decided to look at the rest of the series and reviewed them all, with The Thief's End being my favorite. But after buying the Nathan Drake collection on the PS4 a year after completing those reviews and replayed Drake's Fortune, I thought it was way better than what my own review said. I don't know how much of a difference maker being on the PS4 had, and we'll get to that, but it's certainly better than a 7.5 out of 10 back when I rated games in my reviews. Also, the latest Patreon suggestion thread, the highest voted one went to Uncharted, so technically that means Lost Legacy or Golden Abyss are next. But like the Gran Turismo reviews, these videos were originally made in 2016, so they're long overdue for a re-review. And Patreon supporters have given me that excuse, so thank you, Alfredo Asuncion.
I am here off the coast of Panama, where we just recovered what we believe to be the coffin of legendary explorer Sir Francis Drake. Are you sure you want to be defiling your ancestors' remains like that?
You make it sound so dirty.
Nathan Drake is an adventurer and treasure hunter who's the descendant of Sir Francis Drake. Well, at least he claims to be.
Well, I did do my research, and apparently Francis Drake didn't have any children.
Well, history can't be wrong, you know.
And he's seeking to follow in the footsteps of his ancestor by finding the city of El Dorado. With the help of partner Victor Sullivan and journalist Elena Fisher, they were able to recover his ancestor's coffin in the ocean, which is one of many clues that lead them into an island full of jungles, caves, puzzles, and enemy pirates. They're also trying to keep Gabriel Roman, his Lieutenant Atok Navarro, and Eddie Raja, who are searching for the same thing and whom Sully owns debt to, off their back. Meanwhile, clue after clue, location after location, they discover why El Dorado was never meant to be found because of the curse it carries, and how Francis Drake did everything he could to prevent anyone entering the island, even if it cost him his life. That's the best way to explain the story while keeping it spoiler free.
Alright, Nate, just pretend for a minute that I don't really care about any of that stuff and cut to the chase, would you?
Man only interested in the climax. He must be a real hit with the ladies.
Never had any complaints.
Again, taking inspiration from games like Tomb Raider and Far Cry and movies like, again, Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones, and National Treasure, as you would.
Yeah. Keep smiling, asshole. I'll see you soon.
The villains Gabriel Roman, Atok Navarro, and Eddie Raj, actually I kinda like him and Nathan's interactions, but are otherwise the least memorable of the series. I remember the ones from the sequels, but not this one.
You wanted someone cheap. Well, you get what you pay for, I suppose.
If anything, without spoiling too much, the island itself is the real villain.
Hey, this isn't gonna be a vacation, you know.
I can take care of myself. Besides, you owe me one.
I suppose I do.
But that's the part of the story that stands out, whether it's Nathan with Elena or Sully, or as a trio, the chemistry between these three. There are so many lines of dialogue with plenty of sarcastic humor that put a smile to my face. The motion capture was performed by the actors themselves, and just seeing them perform together, bringing these characters to life, it's heartwarming to watch.
Yeah, well, I always told you to stay away from the bad guys. And the bad girls.
Yeah? Look who's talking.
Obviously, the sequels improved the character development, so this looks like a popcorn action film by comparison. But never coming across as too cheesy, and if it does to someone, then it's part of the cliche in action-adventure films like these.
But promise me you'll stay put. Whatever that means.
With a lot of close calls, nice-looking cinematic camera angles, and that iconic theme, in fact all the music is solid. I find the story very enjoyable to watch, as well as play.
Cielano! Chepatan, buka pintu!
It worked!
There he is! Up there! Get on the gun!
Oh boy.
Naughty Dog used a standard programming code to develop Uncharted instead of its own proprietary one that only Andy Gavin could understand when they developed the Jak and Daxter titles. Though it still uses its own custom engine to try and make as much use of the technology of what was at the time a very complicated system to make games for. But if it was made as a PS3 exclusive, you had a chance to understand it. Being the first game, they ended up using only half the processing power of the PS3, but you wouldn't know it with what you see on screen. It's not perfect, there's a bit of screen tearing and the loading times when you boot it up are very long. Like really long, because once you get past it, there are none from that point out. Last of Us on the PS3 did the same thing. Otherwise, it looks gorgeous. What I really love about these early PlayStation 3 titles was how they showcased the giant leap from one generation to another, including Killzone 2, MotorStorm, Heavenly Sword, and this. Like, this game is nearly 17 years old. Unbelievable. And on the PlayStation 4 in 1080p running in 60 frames per second without the graphical hiccups or loading times, this island and the waters that surround it look stunning. And this was a time when games with no color dominated the market, so it's so vibrant and high in scope by comparison. I like video games where you can take a moment to breathe in all this, just being in awe of the draw distance, as well as the little details like the animations when platforming or Drake getting wet from where he swims or walks through. These were all new innovations that couldn't be done on previous generations.
Nate, are you even listening to me?
Hanging on every word.
Why waste my time?
Drake's Fortune has plenty of variety in its gameplay, especially for 2007. Even coming back to it, there were moments where I'm like, oh right, I forgot about that. Or the complexities of these level designs and puzzles. When you get to a vault, like imagine being the designer of this place. I like that the puzzles have some challenge, but not to the point where you need a walkthrough, at least from my experience. Drake may be an explorer, but the gameplay is completely linear, not like Crash where you have a level selection or Jak and Daxter set on an open world map. There's never an alternate way of advancing through these places. For example, to unlock this door, the key is up this tall tower. You're always taking the longest way around, and yet it's so satisfying.
Oh, no. Excuse me. Thank you.
Movement is a little robotic when platforming, very lightweight with the way Drake moves on the analog stick. It can be inconsistent. There were a couple of moments when he slipped off the edge as a result, but given how dynamic the level designs are, it's understandable. Still, I love whenever these platforming stages occur. I love working out which ledges, edges, or ropes can be traversed.
Bust through that window. Alright, it'll hold me.
The way the fixed camera angles showcase the detail of the island you're exploring and how quickly Drake can move under pressure, being on the verge of death every 10 seconds.
I made it! I'm okay!
The way the cover system and shooting mechanics work is similar to Gears of War, using the D-pad to select a weapon, having a choice between a small and heavy one. You can change shoulder aims, which should be mandatory in every third-person shooter, and with the difficulty increasing with more dangerous enemies, along with a few occasions where you need to balance between platforming and shooting like Jak and Daxter, so there's a lot Drake can do. And based on the way the enemies approach him, you're obliged to make use of every skill he's capable of. For example, Drake doesn't carry much ammo. Whenever you pick up another weapon, most of the time it has the same amount of ammo, which makes it harder to decide what the best weapon is for the next wave of enemies. And with the way they react, getting shot, jumping all over the place, being able to take more bullets than Drake and his luck. And flank your position if you stay there for too long, it encourages you to make every single bullet count.
Jeez, these guys are everywhere. Oh! That is gonna hurt you.
So, yeah, be careful.
Come on. I always am.
Ah! I did not see that!
Using a PS4 controller, the 60 frames per second, and having played this before makes it slightly easier, but I'm always trying my best, and that doesn't guarantee a perfect run. And using the Nathan Drake collection version, thankfully it doesn't have the annoying 6-axis controls used to balance on logs or toss the grenades in the heat of the moment, which even back then was most unwelcome. Then again, grenades in general aren't very useful, they have a very small blast radius. Stealth is completely pointless, you can probably take out one enemy max before being detected. The final boss is disappointing, more about timing on the cover than skill. And when it's all said and done, it's also a very short game. It only took 5 hours to complete, with the only replay value coming in the form of other collectible treasures, which I admit, even playing it leisurely, I easily turn a blind eye, which is pretty inexcusable given how linear the game is.
Turning out to be a really lousy day.
Otherwise, everything comes together really well. It has a right balance of platforming and shooting where you never get sick of doing either or both throughout the playthrough. Yes, there's the occasional lucky shot from a random enemy, but when they're surrounding you, putting that pressure on you, the controls never let me down, so the challenge is fair. Again, with a lot of variety, including vehicle stages. If only that grenade launcher with infinite ammo worked outside an operating jet ski, Drake and Elena would be unstoppable.
Okay.
And, of course, Drake, Elena, and Sully as characters, especially after playing through the series, knowing just how likable they are. It could also be the minor improvements with the PS4 remaster, like the smoother frame rates and removing the 6-axis controls, so obviously I recommend the PS4 version because it's turned into a game that I need to force myself to stop playing when I need to. I enjoy it that much. And at the time of making this review, there are rumors the Nathan Drake collection is getting a PS5 and PC port. If so, there's no shortage shortage of different ways to play this game compared to its launch, because that's all Naughty Dog like doing nowadays. No matter what PlayStation console they had, when Naughty Dog made something, it turned to gold every time. And after the PlayStation 3 had a rocky launch, this game helped bring it back up to speed commercially. Evan Wells was asked about what the expectations were for Uncharted before release, and he developed the story to be a franchise with more treasures to be found literally all over the world.
Well, abracadabra cadabra.
And, well, with multiple titles stretching beyond the next generation, spin-offs and a movie adaptation, he planted the seeds for what will become one of the most important IPs in Sony's arsenal. And going back to where it all began, Drake's Fortune is a fun shooter platformer by a developer who can make these in their sleep. And if you have the Nathan Drake collection, it's like, well, you've still got 2 games to go, and the journey only gets better from there.
Sorry you didn't get your story.
Well, that's all right. There'll be other stories. You still owe me one.
Thanks everyone on Patreon, including Anthony Cossins, Bibbs, Brittleback, Cooper Munn, Darcy McIntosh, Emmanuel Figueroa, Eric Barboza, Atmosphere, Night Kid Gaming, Peter GT, Ruben Pekolk, Sam Sneed, Stefano Sivo, Tickful45, Thomas Rosendale, Zeta Slow, and everybody watching this video. Glad to come back to Uncharted Drake's Fortune again. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, support on Patreon, join the Discord server, follow on Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook. Thanks again for watching, and speak to you guys soon. Spenny out.